Patricia, Kelvin, and two masked men. His breath caught in his throat. No, this isn't real. Sorry, babe. Patricia's voice was sickeningly sweet as she crouched beside him. But you have something I want. Ricky tried to move, but his body was weak. Blood dripped down his face, soaking into the ground. Kelvin laughed, standing over him. All these years, you thought we were friends. He shook his head. You were just a fool with too much money. Ricky's head spun. His best friend? His fiancée? Patricia leaned closer, her perfume filling his nose. You should have gotten rid of that stupid dog, she whispered. Maybe then, you would have seen this coming. Darkness swallowed him whole. Ricky didn't know how long he was unconscious, but when he woke up, he was in the trunk of a moving car. His hands were tied, his head pounding. He could hear Kelvin and Patricia talking in the front. Where are we dumping him? Kelvin asked. There's a forest up ahead, Patricia said. No one will ever find him. Ricky's pulse quickened. I can't die like this. He struggled against the ropes, his mind racing. He had to escape. Now. Suddenly, the car hit a pothole, and the trunk popped open just a little. Ricky didn't think. He pushed with everything he had, rolling out of the trunk and into the darkness of the road. Pain shot through his body as he hit the ground hard. The car screeched to a stop. Shit, he's getting away. Patricia screamed, but Ricky was already running. He didn't know where he was going, he just ran. The forest swallowed him whole, the thick branches scratching his skin. He could hear them chasing him. He had to hide. Somewhere in the distance, a branch snapped. Then gunshots. Something hot tore through his shoulder, sending him tumbling down a slope. He hit the ground hard, his body limp, his vision darkening again. Back home, Jimmy was restless. He paced. He barked. He scratched at the door. Something was wrong. And then he ran. The dog sprinted through the village, his sharp nose following Ricky's scent. He ran past houses, past roads, past streams, until he reached the forest. And there, lying unconscious on the ground, was the man who had saved him as a puppy. Jimmy whimpered, licking Ricky's face. When he didn't move, the dog did the only thing it could do. It ran for help. That was how Aduni found him. That was how everything began. And that was how Ricky Jones' story was far from over. The taxi jerked to a stop in front of the small village hospital. Aduni and the driver worked together to pull Ricky out of the back seat, his body still limp, his breathing shallow. Are you sure this man isn't a criminal? The taxi driver muttered as they struggled to carry him inside. Aduni shot him a sharp look. I don't know who he is, but I can't let him die. The driver sighed and shook his head. That's your business, oh. Just remember to pay me my fare. Inside, the nurses rushed to attend to Ricky, lifting him onto a stretcher. Who is he? One of them asked. I don't know, Aduni admitted. I just found him in the bushes. Then who will sign for his treatment? We need a deposit. Aduni's stomach tightened. She barely had enough money for her own problems, let alone to pay hospital bills for a stranger. But as she glanced at Ricky's face, so pale and lifeless, she knew she couldn't just walk away. Then she remembered. The gold. He still had his expensive wristwatch and thick gold chains on him. If he had been robbed, surely those would have been taken. She slipped off the gold wristwatch and handed it to the taxi driver. Here. This should cover the fare. His eyes widened in surprise, but he didn't argue. He nodded, taking the watch and walking away. Then she turned back to the nurse. I'll use his jewelry to pay the deposit. The nurse hesitated but eventually nodded. Fine, but you'll have to sign for him. If anything happens, it's on you. Aduni swallowed hard. She didn't know this man. She didn't even know if he would survive. But something deep inside her told her that she was doing the right thing. She watched as the doctors worked on him, attaching drips and dressing his wounds. Jimmy, the loyal dog, sat quietly beside her, his eyes never leaving Ricky. Days passed. Aduni didn't abandon Ricky. She had her own struggles, her sick mother, her lack of a proper job, her own uncertain future. Yet, every day, she found herself returning to the hospital. She fed Jimmy, brought fresh fruits for Ricky, and sat by his bedside watching over him. And the questions never left her mind. She had examined his belongings closely. The wristwatch and chains were real gold, worth a fortune. No thief would leave such treasures behind. She didn't have the answers. But she couldn't walk away. She used some of the money from the jewelry to buy medications for her mother, but she always made sure Ricky had enough for his treatment too. Jimmy never left his side. And then one day, everything changed. It was early morning. Aduni sat beside Ricky's hospital bed, peeling an orange, lost in thought. She was exhausted. It had been over a week, and he still hadn't woken up. The doctor said it was a miracle he was even alive. But for how long? Jimmy lay at the foot of the bed, his ears twitching occasionally, as if he were listening for something. Then a movement. Aduni froze. She looked up just in time to see his eyes flutter open. A soft gasp escaped her lips. For the first time, she saw his eyes, deep, dark, and filled with confusion. He blinked, looking around weakly before his gaze settled on her. She swallowed hard. "You're awake," she whispered, more to herself than to him. His lips parted slightly, as if he wanted to say something, but no words came out. Jimmy suddenly sat up, wagging his tail. He barked excitedly and jumped onto the bed, licking Ricky's hand. Ricky's fingers twitched. He was alive. And now, the real questions could finally begin. When Ricky woke up, he remembered nothing. Not his name. Not how he got there. Not why a dog was staring at him with hopeful eyes. His head throbbed when he tried to think, and all he knew was that he was in a hospital bed, surrounded by unfamiliar faces. One face, however, kept appearing. The young woman with deep brown eyes and skin that glowed like the morning sun. The one who always sat by his bedside, peeling oranges, reading quietly, or adjusting his blankets when she thought he was asleep. He didn't know her, but something about her presence felt safe. A nurse came in later that day, checking his vitals. "Where am I?" Ricky asked, his voice hoarse. "You're in a small village hospital," the nurse answered. "A young woman brought you here. You were barely alive when she found you." He frowned. "A young woman?" The nurse smiled knowingly. "Yes. Aduni. She's been here every day since you arrived." Ricky glanced at the door where she had just left a few moments ago. "She saved me." The nurse nodded. "She didn't even know who you were. But she paid for your bills, took care of you, and never left your side." Ricky was silent, trying to process everything. "How did she pay?" he asked after a moment. The nurse hesitated. "She used your wristwatch and jewelry to settle your bills." Ricky touched his wrist instinctively. It was bare. But he didn't feel angry. Instead, a strange warmth filled his chest. "She had no reason to help me, yet she did." When Aduni returned later that evening, Ricky watched her carefully. "You're Aduni," he said, testing the name on his tongue. She paused, then nodded. "Yes. And you're?" His brows furrowed. "I don't know." A flicker of sadness crossed her face, but she quickly masked it. "The doctor said you hit your head. Maybe your memory will come back in time." Silence settled between them. Then Ricky asked, "Why did you help me?" Aduni shrugged. "I couldn't just leave you there to die. Even though you didn't know me?" A small smile touched her lips. "Even if I didn't know you." That was the beginning. Each day, as Ricky's strength returned, so did his curiosity about her. He learned about her struggles, the long hours she worked, the sick mother she cared for, the dreams she had put on hold. She told him about the village, the way life was simple but hard, how she once hoped to leave for a better life, but never could. And in return, he told her the little he knew, which wasn't much. Sometimes he would stare into the mirror, searching his own reflection for answers. Who was he? Where did he come from? Why did someone want him dead? But every time his thoughts became too heavy, Aduni was there to pull him back into the present. They talked. They laughed. They walked outside together when he was strong enough. And one day, something changed. It was a quiet afternoon when Ricky caught himself staring. Aduni was seated by the hospital window, braiding her hair absent-mindedly, lost in thought. The sunlight kissed her skin, making her look almost golden. And in that moment, Ricky felt something stir inside him. He found himself watching her smile, noticing the way her dimples appeared when she laughed, the way her eyes lit up when she talked about things she loved. He didn't know who he was, but he knew he wanted to be around her. "Aduni," he said one evening as they walked outside together. He hesitated, then smiled. "Thank you." She raised an eyebrow. "For what?" "For everything," he said simply. A faint blush colored her cheeks, but she quickly looked away. "It's nothing," she mumbled. But it wasn't nothing. It was everything. The days turned into weeks. Ricky grew stronger. His wounds healed. But something else was happening. Every time Aduni walked into the room, his chest tightened. Every time she smiled, he found himself smiling too. She had become his safe place. And Aduni? She felt it too. At first, she told herself it was gratitude. After all, She had spent so much time taking care of him. But that didn't explain why her heart raced when he held her hand for support. Or why she missed him when she wasn't by his side. Or why, one evening, when their hands brushed accidentally, neither of them pulled away. They didn't say it. Not yet. But love was there. Growing. Waiting. Until one day, it could no longer be ignored. One cool evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, Ricky and Aduni sat on a wooden bench outside the hospital. The air smelled of fresh earth after a light drizzle. Jimmy lay at their feet, his tail wagging lazily. Ricky turned to Aduni, his gaze soft but intense. "You've changed my life," he murmured. Aduni laughed lightly. "How? You don't even remember your life before." He reached for her hand. "Maybe I don't. But I know this. I don't ever want to lose you." Her breath hitched. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then, slowly, Ricky leaned in. Aduni's heart pounded. She had never been this close to him before, never noticed how warm his breath felt against her skin, never realized how much she wanted this. And when his lips met hers, everything else faded away. It was a kiss that felt like the beginning of something powerful. A kiss that sealed what had been growing between them all along. But neither of them knew that this was also the beginning of the storm. That night, Ricky had a dream. A dark road, a car screeching to a halt, a familiar face, his best friend, a flash of metal, a struggle, then pain, falling, silence. Ricky jolted awake, gasping for air. His heart pounded violently as the memories flooded back. He was Ricky Jones, a billionaire, engaged to Patricia, betrayed by Patricia, and the dog, Jimmy. He turned his head, and there was Jimmy, watching him with knowing eyes. "It was you." Ricky whispered, realization crashing over him. Jimmy had saved him. The dog had led Aduni to him. And now, Ricky remembered everything. His blood boiled as the betrayal became clear. Patricia and his best friend had tried to kill him. They left him for dead, thinking he would never come back. But he had survived. And now, he was going to take back everything. The next morning, Ricky sat up in bed, his energy different. He was no longer the lost, confused man Aduni had found in the bushes. He was Ricky Jones, the billionaire they thought was dead. Aduni noticed immediately. "You remember," she said quietly. He nodded. "I remember everything." A strange fear crossed her face. "So what happens now?" Ricky reached for her hand. "I go back. I take back my life. I make them pay for what they did to me. And me." Aduni's voice was barely a whisper. He cupped her face gently. "You're coming with me. I'm not leaving you behind." Her eyes searched his, uncertain. "But your world is different from mine, Ricky. What if?" He silenced her with another kiss. "No what ifs. I love you, Aduni, and I'm taking you with me." Aduni's heart ached. She had spent her life struggling, barely surviving. And now this man, whom she had saved, was offering her a future she never dreamed possible. But what awaited them in his world? And would Patricia and his best friend let him take back his life so easily? Ricky didn't waste time. He knew Patricia and Kelvin would try to fight back, so he had to strike first. He didn't have direct evidence of their betrayal, but he had one powerful weapon, surprise. He walked into his company with confidence, the police right behind him. As he entered the CEO's office, Patricia and Kelvin were celebrating their supposed victory, laughing over glasses of wine. The moment Patricia saw Ricky, her face lost all color. Kelvin choked on his drink. "No, this can't be possible," he stammered. Ricky stepped forward, his voice deadly calm. "Surprised to see me, Kelvin?" Kelvin glanced at Patricia, panic in his eyes. "Ricky, listen, we thought that I was dead." Ricky interrupted, his gaze cold. "That's exactly what you wanted, wasn't it?" Patricia's lips trembled. "Ricky, baby, don't you dare call me that." His voice was sharp, cutting through the air. "You stood by while your real lover tried to kill me." Kelvin's mask of calm cracked. "Ricky, this is a misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding?" Ricky scoffed. He turned to the police officers. "These are the people who left me for dead in the woods. I want them arrested. Now." The officers stepped forward. Kelvin lunged for the door, but two policemen grabbed him. "You can't do this to me, Ricky." Kelvin shouted, struggling. "We were best friends." "Best friends don't stab each other in the back," Ricky said coldly. Patricia, now crying, grabbed Ricky's arm. "Ricky, please. I loved you. It was him. He made me do it." Ricky pulled his arm away in disgust. "You never loved me. You loved my money. The officers slapped handcuffs on both of them. As Patricia and Kelvin were dragged away, Ricky stood there breathing deeply. It was over. For the first time in weeks, he felt free. Patricia and Kelvin out of his life, Ricky focused on the one person who truly mattered, Aduni. He knew he couldn't let her go. One evening, as they walked through the city, Ricky held Aduni's hand tightly. "Aduni," he said, stopping in front of a beautiful restaurant, decorated with soft glowing lights. She looked up at him, curious. "What is it?" He took a deep breath, then slowly got down on one knee. Aduni's eyes widened. "Ricky," she whispered. "Aduni, you saved me when I was nothing but stranger. You gave me kindness when the world betrayed me. I don't know what I did to deserve you, but I don't want to spend another day without you." He pulled out a beautiful diamond ring. "Will you marry me?" Tears filled Aduni's eyes. She covered her mouth with her hands, overwhelmed. "Yes," she finally whispered. Then louder, "Yes." Ricky slipped the ring onto her finger, and before she could say another word, he pulled her into a deep, loving kiss. Jimmy barked happily beside them, wagging his tail. Not long after, Ricky arranged for Aduni's mother to come live with them in the city. She was given the best medical care, and for the first time in years, she smiled without pain. Ricky, Aduni, and Jimmy moved into a beautiful home together. Aduni no longer had to struggle. She opened a small health clinic, fulfilling her dream of helping others. And Ricky? He had everything he ever wanted. A woman who loved him for who he was. A loyal dog who would save his life. And a future brighter than he ever imagined. As he sat on the balcony one evening, watching the sunset with Aduni in his arms, he whispered, "If only you knew why Jimmy kept following you that day." Aduni smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. "I think I do now." And with that, they laughed, holding each other close, a love story that began with a dog, and they lived happily ever after.